Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back from, I know folks are still eating because we have our lunchtime presentation. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm Dorchen Leithold, and I'm the director of the Legal Center at Sanctuary for Families, CBWLS. And it is my tremendous honor now to introduce Stephanie McGraw, the founder and CEO of W.A.R.M, an extraordinary survivor-centered nonprofit provider of holistic domestic violence services based in Harlem. I'm now going to read the powerful biography that W.A.R.M forwarded me for Stephanie's introduction today. Stephanie McGraw grew up in New York City Housing Authority projects and lived with abuse as a child and intimate partner violence as an adult. She survived 30 years of abusive relationships and a resulting stay in a domestic violence shelter. Leaving the shelter and growing out of her pain, Stephanie returned to her Harlem roots where no one was talking about real life issues related to domestic violence. In this environment, Stephanie grew a burning desire to live a mission of helping poor victims of color journey from devastation to safety and independence. So she gave birth to W.A.R.M, We All Really Matter, a 501c3 nonprofit organization in 2010 to increase community awareness about domestic violence, empower victims to help themselves, and develop community responses that make our wonderful city a safer place. For 11 years, Stephanie regularly has helped victims escape from homes located on blocks police acknowledge as among the most dangerous in New York City and with perpetrators present. During the pandemic, domestic violence services have been closed or greatly limited while the need has spiked. During these times, often partnering with NYPD, she continues to inspire W.A.R.M to rescue dozens of victims annually and bring them to safety 24/7. W.A.R.M is unique and successful because Stephanie has blended her life lessons with the work, integrating a grassroots, client-centered mindset that brings crisis services to wherever victims are. Volunteer survivors who walk side by side with victims, sharing their stories of pain to triumph, while victims' minds and hearts change from "I never really mattered and I never will" to "I do matter" to "We all really matter." Staff who are a bridge of trust between victims and the criminal justice system. And no time limits for support, a free lifetime 24/7 service partnership, reducing recidivism. What Stephanie does radiates from an internal fire rather than external recognition. At the same time, she feels renewed and further strengthened by ongoing formal validation of her work from local politicians, community organizations, newspapers, a TV station, hospitals, the New York State Senate, and the United Nations. I can personally testify to Stephanie McGraw's visionary leadership, courage, resourcefulness, and impact. I visited Stephanie at W.A.R.M's offices and seen her and her staff in action, addressing the wide range of needs of survivors, principally in Harlem and the Bronx, from urgent needs for food and clothing to shelter to legal services. I've witnessed how Stephanie and her staff cut through the red tape to provide survivors with life-saving assistance and services. I saw that she had the commanding officer of every precinct she works in on speed dial. And I saw her deep connections to leaders in communities and city and state government and the tremendous respect they have for her. And as for her powerful community-based activism, let me give you just one example. On April 30th, I followed Stephanie, bullhorn in hand, as she led an awareness-raising march and rally in Harlem in honor of 27-year-old Brittany Nicole Duffy, one of W.A.R.M's fallen angels, who was murdered by her boyfriend in front of her 8-year-old son at the height of the pandemic. She was 3 months pregnant at the time of her murder. Stephanie also honored in that march and rally Brittany's women neighbors who immediately after the murder of their friend, at great personal risk, intervened to protect her son. The march took place in and around Manhattanville and General Grant houses, where Brittany Nicole grew up. Among the marchers were Brittany Nicole's mother, grandmother, father, grandfather, neighbors, friends, and most heartbreakingly, her sister, who marched with her arm around Brittany Nicole's now 9-year-old son, wearing a T-shirt emblazoned with the words, "Mommy, I love you." Hard work. I'll end with Stephanie's powerful words. One of the reasons we're doing this is because silence hides violence. Brittany never told anyone about the abuse and what was going on until it was too late. Stephanie, we are so grateful for the many powerful ways in which you are breaking the silence with truth about the devastating impact of domestic violence, especially in our city's most underserved communities. Stephanie McGraw.
Thank you so much. That's just so incredible. I'm just so honored to be here. My name is Stephanie McGraw. I am the founder and CEO of W.A.R.M. And W.A.R.M stands for We All Really Matter. And if we don't matter, what does it mean? I'd like to take a moment to thank Sanctuary for Families, especially Dorcha, my sister in the struggle. Our skins, of course, the color of our skins are very much different. You can tell because you can see you have eyes. However, that is my sister because she is about action like W.A.R.M, myself, and everything we do is about action. So I charge you even before we start this, before we leave here today, let's take some action. Okay, so I would also like to thank the Justice for Survivors Intimate Partner Violence. You know, I'm looking at justice and I wonder, is it just us, women of color, or if it's justice for all? Just marinate with that. You know, maybe you'll get that when you get home, but we have to start making a difference. So I'm the founder, CEO of W.A.R.M. W.A.R.M stands for We All Really Matter. We are we operate in the Bronx area. We are now in the Bronx and we're in Harlem, and we have now trickled into Brooklyn. Just the other day, we responded to a young 22-year-old girl murdered, chopped up, and put in 2 suitcases and was murdered. So we were there on the scene, responding to the community, responding to the pain, responding to another falling woman of color. So that's what we do. I have to get used to this. Voila. Look at the birth of W.A.R.M. And I chose that picture. You know, it took me some time after looking at so many different images of what I wanted to reflect where I was at the time when I gave birth to W.A.R.M. I gave birth to W.A.R.M in fetal position, just like you see on the screen. I was in fetal position in 2010. Now, I've been in fetal position in and out of my life for over 30 years. However, this one was devastating, and it kind of like defined who I was going to be coming out of this fetal position. So battered, shattered, broken for over 30 years of my life. The vicious cycle continued to continue. And at the age of 40 something, I found myself in an apartment in the Bronx, a tenement, walk up drugs in the building, roaches and rats in the building. But I had to go there because it was time for me to give birth. And I went and gave birth. And at this time, I didn't know why I was in fetal position, but I knew it was something that I had to do after all of my pain and struggling and years of abuse. There was something that I had to do. And I heard this very strong voice. I believe it probably was the creator. Yeah, it was the creator saying that something warm. Like, okay, it's cold here, but maybe I can go somewhere warm. But I didn't know I was giving birth. So I gave birth to W.A.R.M. We All Really Matter in 2010. And at the time, I had came out of a shelter upstate New York. I came back to New York. I didn't see anyone that looked like me, sounded like me, talked like me, anyone that had the lived experience. Anyone in my community that grew up in poverty. Well, we all grew up in poverty, so we were able to identify there. We grew up in the projects, we grew up in poverty, we grew up with dysfunction. However, there was no one in my community that was talking about domestic violence. It was still considered in 2010, it's still considered to be a shame. Don't talk, be quiet, don't talk about it, hush. So we are here to say and to discuss and to expose domestic violence, what it is. It is a crime. It's not a shame. So I created this organization because there was a need. I'm going to try to do this. This is all new to me. So, okay. That right? Okay. So, I have been doing this work now for 12 years. I did it for 8 years, absolutely no money. And Hannah Pemberton is over there. She could testify to that. Okay, coming out to her office, bringing women to on a train, trying to get some kind of help, trying to get some kind of services, and had these amazing conferences, bringing people together, bringing lawyers together, bringing police together, bringing United Nations together, bringing the powers that bring. As a matter of fact, I went downtown and I was able to get some judges to come up to Harlem, because the only way you're going to make any kind of effective change is that you have to be in it. You can't be over there and you making change over here, because at the end of the day, it's going to always be a gap. We recently we charged a commissioner from ACS to come up to Harlem, and we took him in the belly of the beast. And any one of y'all want to take that ride with me? Sign up right here. The paper's right there. Put your name and your number. Come take that ride with him. Come and see what it's like. I suspect some of you might be judges sitting in the family court. Come and see what these women that have to come in front of you and what they have to experience. This woman right here, Shanice Young, murdered in front of her 3 children, 9 months pregnant, coming from her baby shower. And because she didn't get the vital information about domestic violence, is the most dangerous time is when you're trying to leave. She was murdered. And because there's no kind of healing and any kind of services that's in place for women, even right now, as I speak to you, this woman daughter is still looking for therapy. There's no services in place for these women, and that has to change. So she was murdered. We responded. We called the police. We called the mayor office. We got the community together and we did a candlelight vigil. We were able to walk Shanice family out of that. We were able to get the funeral paid for. We were able to get the community, get the church, and get the family services on a Friday evening, because that's when they came to my office. So in order for you to start healing any kind of people or situation or population, you have to understand where people come from, their struggles, their pain, where they come from. I grew up in a household with 9 children. I didn't have an opportunity to choose great education. I didn't have an opportunity to choose Whole Foods, because back then they ain't had no Whole Foods anyway. Okay, we had bodegas and we had Little Debbie's and we had them quarter juices. I could not tell you what was in them quarter juices. Probably was all kind of chemicals and stuff or whatever was in there. But we didn't have an opportunity to have choices, to even get an education, to get the decency of your basic needs met, like food and clothing, and just to come home and know that there will be a hot meal on your plate. We didn't get that. My mother had 9 children and she did the best she could. And my father left at 10 because he was trained from the slave master. Yeah, I'm going to go there. 400 years of vicious cycle. And the sad thing about what I'm talking about is we're still seeing that in our communities. We're still seeing the trauma of 400 years of our ancestors being. We were brought here. We didn't have a choice. So this is why we do this work in the community. Shanice Young, murdered in Harlem. This is what Dorcha briefly spoke about. Brittany Duffy, 3 months pregnant, in her home, and her boyfriend came there and shot her in the neck in front of their 8-year-old child. We are still working on getting him therapy because there's after the death, after the sensations, after the news, after the police, after the crowd, after the candlelight visual, then they're left to little or no services. I'm telling you, because I'm out there, I'm boots on the ground, grassroots, embedded and invested in the community, and we're walking with these families. So these are the stories that I get to bring you. And you probably would have never heard it because at the same time, there was a young girl named Gabby, another counterpart. She was murdered at the same time Brittany was murdered. She got a Lifetime movie. Her parents had money because they were from Long Island. She was on the news every day. They talked about her case for almost 3 months. These two women were murdered at the same time, but because this is marginalized communities and we live in communities where there's a lack in deserts and where there is lack of services, just another Black woman, like Dr. Malcolm said, Black women are the most disrespected and unprotected. And I can vouch that today because I'm living in his skin and I've experienced that. Brittany Duffy, we had a march for her because we wanted people to know that she was a life. She was a woman. She had children. She worked in NYCHA. She was getting her life together, but murdered, domestic violence. As you can see, this is a police officer and she has a gun, as you can see, Adriana. Murdered June 15, 2020 in the Bronx. And as you know, and if you don't know, I'm going to tell you now, the Bronx have the highest rates of murder of Black and brown women in New York City, according to NYPD. It's real serious out here. It is not only a pandemic or an epidemic, it is a national health crisis right here in our beautiful cosmopolitan. Look at the view here. Look at what we see. Look at this world. My eyes, the women that I deal with, they have never been able to see such great beauty. Look at everything is out here. Anything you want in this life is out here. But however, it's different strokes for different folks. So what are we going to do to make a difference? She was a police officer. She got her life together. She was from Dominican Republic and she left a 4-year-old son murdered, domestic violence. He waited for her because she decided, I'm going on with my life. I want something different. That's why we all really matter in the community, because we have to educate, because I was not educated. I didn't know that my life was in danger. I didn't know that I was in the process of almost being murdered because I changed my mind. And I said everything that I knew at the time. F and F, F and F, and F and F. Those are 4-letter words. Well, that's all I knew at the time because I came off that ground. When I came out that fetal position, I got off that ground with no GED, no basic understanding. I didn't even have an education. But when I came off that ground in 2010, I knew it was something I had to do different. I knew that there was something out there that no one could ever take away from me. That is my dignity and my education. So I went back to school, y'all. As I built this organization, I used to leave Harlem. I used to leave BMCC, run over there to Hannah. Hannah, I got a victim. And I met her in my classroom, and she's a victim, and she needs help. I'm leaving BMCC, running over to the Family Justice Center, taking a victim of domestic violence straight up to Hannah. She writes, "Can I get a witness, Hannah?" All right now, okay, right here. I didn't know Hannah was going to be here. This is all God. I ain't had nothing to do with this. I'm just showing up. However, when I got off that ground in 2010 with nothing, I decided I wanted to do something because my story is not about me. My story is about you. It's about you. It's about all these women. It's about this woman right here. My story my story is to help someone else gain. My pain is to help someone else gain. So use your life as a classroom, and that's what I've been able to do. I got my GED at the age of 50. I know I look fabulous. Y'all ain't gonna tell me. Okay, healing is sexy. I'm telling y'all. So get your healing on. Okay, you ain't gotta be all tight and like, ooh, what happened? No, life is happening. It's good. It is good. I'm gonna tell you how good it is. It's good. Even when it's bad, it's good. I'm free today. I'm free. I'm free to help someone else. So I got my GED. And then somebody whispered in my ear and said, maybe you just can go and get some college education stuff. I'm saying, what? I can't do it. It's too hard. I have a learning disability. My mother was not capable of meeting her children's needs. So I didn't know I had a learning disability to get like 50 something. They said, go over there and get diagnosed. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. So I can get accommodations. And my accommodations helped me get through school. You ask me to spell something, you're going to be in trouble. But you ask me to speak about something, baby, I have dyslexia. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So I went on to get my GED. I went on to get my college education as I built this organization. I went from 6850 to six figures. I went into the welfare office and they said, oh, Miss McGraw, who you working for now? Because you have to turn in your papers. And the lady said, what's the company? And I said, oh, here, I work for myself. We really matter. I'm the founder and CEO of W.A.R.M, and I work for myself. And at a point now where I'm finally able to pay myself, I don't need public assistance anymore. Freedom. Freedom, freedom. Let's get back to rolling on what's happening with our sisters in the hood. Murdered, 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 laid up, but laid up behind the steps, like like a villain, like a horror movie. And when she came out, she'd have a chance walking in the house, coming, serving you, serving you, serving me. Murdered. May she rest in peace. Asia Johnson. Asa Johnson was a 20-year-old beautiful woman walking in a shelter. She was in the shelter at the time, walking her baby on 95th. I know you all heard about it because it was in a neighborhood where it made people scared and they were talking about it, okay? She was murdered, gang style, like the mob, like, just straight shot in the head. And because Asia did not have warm, we already mattered. And the interesting thing, we weren't that far from the shelter. We wasn't that far. But in her mind, she thought like I thought as battered women. That's why we are here to do the job, to let women know, to educate. The most dangerous time is when you're trying to get out. She got out and he lured her back in. I want to see my baby. You gave birth to our child. Our child is 3 months old. I have 3 months old. I have clothes. I have stuff. I have Pampers for the baby. And she went to 95th Street between Lexington and 3rd Avenue, and she lost her life. With this family here, we worked on the whole unit because once one black and brown woman is killed in our community, a part of our community dies. Ask me why, somebody? Well, you don't have to ask me why. I'm going to tell you. Let me tell you, sister. Those nice red glasses you have on. The Black woman is the pillar of the community. When they brought our ancestors over here 400 years ago, the Black woman had to take care of the plantation, had to take care of their families, had to raise someone else's children. And today, when a Black woman is murdered in our community, our whole community suffers. A part of our community died because in our communities where we live at, the Black woman is the pillar of the community. So it's not only that this woman was affected and she's not here and she left 2 children behind, but she left a community, she left a family, her mother, her whole family, because the boyfriend was in one of those gangs. The whole family, this family right here, was all in jeopardy of being executed. So what we did in the middle of the night, we all really matter because we are the critical response team. Because we are the critical response team. We got out, we went in, we got the family packed up, we got their stuff to storage, and we got Lisa's mother and her family to a safe location. That's what we do. We take action. We can't sit around and talk about, well, maybe we can look at a policy and procedure. Okay. At the end of the day, a policy procedure is good. Don't tell me, don't let me get up here talking about policy procedures not good because we got to have them, right? However, understanding when lives are at stake, we got to take action. So we took action. We took action. Her whole family, the daughters, because they are all in an abuse relationship. We're giving them services right now. Myself and Lisa, the mother, was on Cheryl Wool's show last week on honoring domestic violence. So this woman, no mother and no father. So the community suffered. Let me go back. I skipped one. Just want to tell you real quick before I move on about this beautiful woman, Gabriella, and her daughter. We did a candlelight vigil for this family because this woman was murdered, and the abuser not only murdered his girlfriend, but he went into the bedroom and murdered her 6-year-old girl. Innocent child, could not hurt anyone. We called, like Dorothy tell you, I don't play. I'm real gangster about what I do because women lives at stake. We called the commanding officer. This is what I need you to do. I don't go asking them, well, can you maybe, because I know their job is to be there to help and assist. And we don't know that because of our trauma, because of the pain and suffering that Black people have had to deal with at the hands of NYPD. It is a big gap. However, we were able to use that gap at the height of time of the pandemic and go in there because our women were suffering. And we got a call one day from a commanding officer who I know very well. And he's like, I need help. We went to work. We opened up our doors. We were at WeWork on 125th Street, and we just started bringing victims and their children there. And from that, we went into the precinct and said, "Look, we're here." Because we know in our community, what was happening during the pandemic was a lot of Black and brown women were the ones that were really being affected. So we called the commanding officer. Her school came out. She worked in a law firm. They were all there. But not only that, we come and we show up for these candlelight vigils, it gives the community an opportunity to heal. And every single time I do this, I ask the question before I leave. Did you know that all the 77 precincts have a DV unit in them? And no one in our communities know that every precinct has a domestic violence unit. So it is my job to get that information out to our people, to let them know that you can go in there and demand just everything I demand and everything I do, you can do. As a matter of fact, come on with me because I'm gonna show you. She lost her life, her daughter, no services. And if she did have services, maybe she didn't get the information because you can sometimes receive services, but our unique way of addressing victims of domestic violence is very simple. We just tell our own struggles and our own pain and help them walk out of that through our own lived experience. It's not that deep, I'm telling you. I didn't go to the University of, what do you call it, the Harvard. I went to the University of 125th Street School of Hard Knocks, and it's not that deep. There's no different from Harvard to 125th and Lenox Avenue because it's not that deep. When someone is in trouble, they just need someone to help them execute and get out. She was in trouble and didn't know it. She was in trouble and she lost her life. She lost her life. Aiden Wolf, our youngest victim, he was 10 years old. He was murdered in one of the belly of the beast, which is we work very closely with PSA 6. That's one of our partner precincts. And St. Nicholas Housing, they have one of the highest radio calls. And Aiden Wolf life could have been saved. But when you grow up in so much suffering and pain, you become numb to the call. Because I grew up I call it Vietnam. I grew up in 201 West 93rd Street. It sounds nice, right? The Central Park and Riverside. But it was one project that they put there. And we grew up in that. And so you become numb to the call, to the pain, to the suffering, because it's such a norm that you don't even think to like, well, maybe this kid that was hollering and screaming and being beaten and broken and sexually assaulted. I know it's kind of hard for y'all to hear, but I really need you to understand how serious and dangerous domestic violence is. This young man lost his life, Aiden Wolf. And we did a walk through the projects. We rallied with PSA 6. We were in the buildings. And one of the things I noticed about our partnership when we are out with NYPD is that women, in particular Black women, are a little more comfortable coming over when they see us. Because first, what y'all doing with the police? You know, what y'all, that kind of talk, It's not like, excuse me, Miss McGraw, what is the nature of your business with the police? No, what y'all doing over there with the police? This is what we're doing, sister. We're here to save lives, and we have to make them accountable. Yes, let me tell you something about the police. No one's perfect. I'm not even perfect. But if I keep looking at you and blaming you and saying you, and I'm not looking at what part I did, because if I'm going one at you, it's three coming back at me. So I had to take my three and look at me and say, what can we do to go up in the police departments and make a difference? Let's educate them. Let's teach them. Let's share our stories. Let's tell them where we're from, our struggles. We know we have not been treated very well throughout history when it came to NYPD. And that was, let me not get too deep. I'm going to keep it moving. Aiden lost his life. He was 10 years old. I spoke at his funeral. I helped the father get some. They had to do a lot. They had to do OVS application. They needed help navigating through the investigation. We were right there with them. Not only we just do these candlelight vision, but we are there to walk the families through. And I don't have all of them. This woman right here, Anna, murdered, left two daughters in the Bronx. That's the 43rd precinct. Got on the phone. We need you there, commanding officer. He brought his whole team out. It was one of the most heinous murders because she had left two 16-year-old twin daughters, and the twin daughters was at his mother's house. There's stories behind these faces, ladies and gentlemen. There's stories. The abuser, the ex-boyfriend, went to the mother house and took the keys from the twins. Twins were in the mother's house, his mother's house, sleeping. He took the keys and he went to Anna's house and waited for her to come home, and he killed her. Now there's no mother and no father. And this case right here, because they were sending the body to Dominican Republic, because they were grieving, because they didn't understand the navigation and the policy procedure and what needs to be done, they needed to get in the house to get her passport to ship the body. And because of our connections, because we're boots on the ground and grassroots and embedded and know our players, excuse me, I need someone to get in that house now and just go get the passport. That's all we need. Get in there now. You talking about, oh, well, I'm sorry. You got to go to surrogate's courts and you got to do this. No, because I know you have the power to get in that house and go get those passports. That's the commanding officer of the 43rd precinct. And he was able to get his detectives in there, get them passports, and they were able to ship her body to Dominican Republic. That's what we do at our agency by any means necessary. We're going to get the job done. We're actionable because we know the trauma and what these families are dealing with. And they have no understanding of how to navigate. So we just simply take them by their hands and we help them navigate out. That process would have took over 3 months. Now, I ain't no lawyer, but I know it's some serious lawyers in here because Dortch, one of them, and my girl Jennifer, okay? And Hannah's also a lawyer. I don't know how many other lawyers is in here, but I know you ladies understand the process of surrogate's court. I'm not a lawyer, but I know everything about surrogate's court. You know why? Because I went down there, started asking questions, and got to the deputy somebody. So now I call her. Excuse me, deputy so I need you to help me with this. We got to get this done. This is what we were able to do with this case, right? These are our partnerships. These are our partnerships. We have 19 partnerships, and I'm going to tell you how we got them. We got them. I started with the 2-3. I'm in the command of the 2-3. Greenie is the commanding officer. I did a panel one time. He saw what we were offering. And I got these partnerships because when the pandemic hit, there was nothing to little available because people were dying and everyone shut down. And Greenie called me in the height of the pandemic and said he had a young Black woman who was just leaving Harlem Hospital, who was broken and beaten and had a cast and had a 3-month-old baby. And they needed to get services for this woman. And he brought it to me. And that's how my partnerships started. They started calling us, oh, call them, they're the critical response team. Oh, call them, they're coming. So when we went into a precinct and we looked at the numbers and we saw where there were high numbers, we just simply went in. Excuse me, let me speak to Ken officer. This is who I am. This is what we need, and this is what we're here to help you. Do you want help, or do you just want to look good? Because if you want to look good, then I'll see you later. But if you want to make a difference and you really want help for your officers, we're here. So from that, we have now evolved into 19 precincts, and we hold them to the fire. This is one of the officers on our rescue mission. PSA 5 coming to our office. That's our physical or location with a mother and her 5 children, everything they own in those bags because we are the critical response team. We don't wait to get the women help. We get them help right then and there, packing them up, getting them out. As a matter of fact, I called the commanding officer from the PSA 5 and said, send a van over there. I have a woman with 5 children and they need to get out. And he sent the officers with the van and we did 2 trips to get all her stuff to our office. This is a story. I'm getting ready to shut it down. Out of my bed on a Sunday. Out of my bed on a Sunday. That the short guy with a lot of hair. No. His name is Marcia. He called me on a Sunday. This was out of my bed, December 5th. I don't work on a Sunday. I need a little rest for myself. But this commanding officer called me and I said, who are you? He had a little crackle in his voice, but it was something very profound about what I heard concern. He moved me. His spirit touched my spirit. And he said, I'm calling you because I called One Police Plaza trying to get help for a mother and her 6 children. On a Sunday, they called every other agency, locks change, 800 numbers, trying to get this family help, and they could not. And he reached out to the chief of department, and the chief of department, who I have a relationship, and I go to Domstack every month, told this commanding officer, oh, call Stephanie. She gets the done. This gentleman called me, and because of his voice, I got out my bed. He said, I got a mother and 6 kids. I need some help. We tried everything under the natural sun to get this family help, and we could not get her any help. And I said, I'm on my way. And then he said, okay, well, I'm getting out my bed and I'm on my way to wherever he lives. I don't know where he lives. He lives upstate and he lives in, and a lot of them live out there in the islands, wherever. He came to my office. He had those 2 officers there bring that mother and her 6 children down to my office. They were dirty. Their hair was nappy. They were hungry and they were in danger because the abuser was lurking and saying, as soon as them police leave, because I see them, because I got cameras in the house, he had us sleeping in a dog cage. True story. True story. And I'm going to go somewhere with that. And when they got her to my office, we got them clean clothes because we have a storage. We get, and you ladies, when your children, friends want to make a donations, I'm going to give you all that information. We have a storage. So we had everything those families needed because we offer wraparound service, anything necessary. We got this woman out and her 6 children. And ACS was involved. The school called ACS. Guess why? Because the kids' hair was nappy and wasn't combed. I suspect there may be some judges sitting in this room. And when you don't get an opportunity to understand the story of where she came from, if you have someone that got you sleeping in a dog cage, I saw it. And how did I see it? Because after we got the family out, my crew with those officers went back in that apartment, packed her stuff up, took the stuff to storage, and she didn't have to ever go back to the apartment. Because sometimes you just need that kind of help. You don't know which way to go, how I move, because if you're coming out of a dog cage with 6 children, how do you navigate? So we got that family out. ACS was involved. The courts were involved. The school called ACS because the kids' hair was matted. Now, I saw the kids' hair when Inspector Marcia brought them to my office on a Sunday, and I immediately said, oh, my mother Josephine with her 9 children, no money to take care of her children, don't know how to get their hair, incapable, can't meet the needs. I understood when I saw that nappy hair. And what did we do? Or what did I do? $100 out of my own pockets, not at the agency. Because sometimes you have to go above and beyond. I saw Dorcha. I went to meet Dorcha one time. She gets in the cab, going to meet a victim to give her a gift card. That's the kind of action we got to take when we're dealing with these families, because I know it. I come from that. So what we did, we just brought the family up. I took the kids because when you're in a community and when you're working in these kind of environments, you know how to execute. That's what makes us different because we're in the community. We know what the needs are when we see it because we're from it. So we just simply took the kids to the Africans, got their hair done. My friend Big Russ, he's a barber on 131st and 8th Avenue. Yo, Big Russ, I need a salad. I got these 3 boys. They ain't had their hair cut in about a year. Big Russ, okay, take it. Took them around the corner, and every 3 months she came up and got her kids' hair braided. And then we had to deal with ACS, right? So this is what we do with our partners with NYPD. And they know I will hold them to the fire in a heartbeat. I don't have a problem with speaking my voice because my voice is not only for me, it's for the women that have no voices. These are our partnerships. We do intense outreach. A part of our job is we're out there in the community working with the police because we know this has never been done before. I'm going to tell you right now. Somebody asked me how you did it. I just did it because there was a need. This officer right here, his DV officers came to this house in the Bronx. The woman was choked up. The house was a wreck. Um, she had bruises on her neck, and the 2 officers did not arrest. And because the universe is so serious, this young lady found us. And when she told us the story, I called downtown to a higher up, had those body scans taken and looked at, and that officer got into serious trouble because they did not do their job. So when we called back and said we going back, they sent the sergeant. And I said, Sergeant, I need you to get up there. I need you to help move the stuff out because we got to move this woman out today. We got to get us up to studge. This is an action right here. That sergeant is going up and down the 5th floor with us, taking bags, packing them up, getting them out. This is a visual. The woman that was killed in the Bronx, and we had to get the family passports out. That's actually in her lobby. That's the commanding officer there. The whole, not only them, but us. We're better together. I know we've had some difficult days, and we're probably gonna have some more. However, we have to start somewhere. And we have to start reimagining what we want to do, how we want to do it, and what the kind of results we want from the NYPD. So these are all a collaborative effort. This is the one that was she was murdered, the police officer. And we had over 500 police officers come in front of her building. We did a candlelight visual. Her sisters came out, her aunts came out, and they took her to Dominican Republic. This is what we do. This is kind of outreach that we do in our community with our NYPD. This is a story before I shut it down. I'm going to tell you this story roll call. This was during the pandemic in 2020. And because we knew how serious it was, we would go to all of our commands, do roll call, give them every piece of literature that we had. If you got to get them out in the middle of the night, bring them to us. I have a woman that has an apartment. She got 2 empty rooms, and we use those rooms for critical removals because sometimes there's just those shelters are full. The 800 number are full. So a part of our goal is to one day have affordable housing for women. Somebody in this room can possibly help us move in that direction. I'm throwing it out to the universe. This is at the 3-2 precinct. This gentle teddy bear, so he is right here. Okay, so that is the right? That's Maura. Maura was the officer. This was the 3-2 precinct, but during the pandemic, we went to every precinct. That's how we were getting the officers to bring women and children to our office because we went to all our commands. We did roll call. We gave them information. We told them what we were. We're there 24/7, not 24/7, but we're there. But if I got to be there, if we got to be there on a Sunday, we will be there. That's Moria right there. And if you see what's in my hand, you see I have my card and I have my business card, and I'm saying to all of them in that room, And you see Maura, he's looking directly at me. He's staring at me. He's hearing what I'm saying. And what I was simply saying to that roll call with Maura Wilbert is that when you are going to a domestic violence call, it is the most dangerous call because it's matters of the heart. It is the most dangerous call. That's Maura, who was murdered. You all heard about it. We all know about the two officers that was murdered at the 3-2 precinct going to a radio domestic violence dispute on 135th Street. That was Maura. As we poured into those officers about the importance of domestic violence. And if you need some help, we're here. Send them to us. He didn't make it out. Him and Jason didn't make it out. So we did a big candlelight. We honored them. And a part of what we do in honoring these two, every time we go to these precincts, we do a moment of silence. We talk about they lost their lives going to a domestic violence radio call on 135th Street. Let me go back. So what I want to say to you, as you've seen all of that and seen the work and seen who we are, what happens to women and children and Black and brown women when it comes to family court, when it's not just, it is just us. It's not just us for all. And let me just tell you a little smidget. In 2016, I was charged with beating and starving my adopted son, Devontae McGraw, in 2016. I was brought into family court. ACS was called. No evidence, no priors. And ACS took me to court and said, we're going to do something called a removal because you put your child in imminent danger. No evidence. So let me tell you about the bias that Black and brown women have to experience when they are entering the family court. I went to that court. I had maybe my experience, and I know today my experience, I had to have that experience to be able to help Black and brown women when they are dealing with the court systems. I was charged with neglect and abuse of my adopted son. I adopted him on St. Patrick's Day, 2016. 4 months later, I was whisked into family court. And I don't know that the judge is in here. I know her name. I don't remember her name, but I have all my files is packed up to here. And the judge looked at what ACS wrote on those papers, that this child was in imminent danger and that his needs wasn't met. He was at Columbia College going to one of the most amazing programs there. I got him in there with my contact. He was one of those explorers. I got him in one of the best schools. He had a therapist. I got him a trauma therapist. He had the very best life. But because the trauma and because what I had to experience with the courts, I don't even have to tell you none of the women that we deal with story, but because of the system, the systemic racism, and because of this steepness and this deny, because that's what we experience. I did, and the deflect of what I experienced in those courts, and the dismissing of, excuse me, you've been charged with this, and that's what it was. There was no evidence. I had my child removed. 4 months later, the judges, the district attorneys, the lawyers, the ACS, no one in that system? You mean no one in that system wanted to find out how a woman that adopted a child, 4 months later, he was being removed. And he was removed, signed by a judge, removed because, yes, he's in imminent danger. There was no marks. There were no bruises. They took him down to wherever they took him to. There was no investigation. But this is one I want to tell you about, the experience of Black and brown women and opposed to the other counterpart. And I'll just leave it like that. There is two different justice when it comes to the courts, when it comes to Black and brown women, when it comes to our children. They are the new modern day slave trade. They're going back to the plantation. You know why I say that? Because when you take one child and you put them in the system, the family court get paid, the judges get paid, the lawyers get paid, the foster agency get paid, the therapists get paid, the director of the foster agency, everyone is getting paid off of one child. I went to a meeting, it was 12 people in the meeting. I said, everybody sitting in this meeting, they can't get this child the help that he needs. I was innocent. I was innocent and accused of badgering and beating and starving my 15-year-old son about like this high. And I'm going to beat him and starve him. But because there is no real system to get to the truth, and ACS and the courts to understand trauma and mental illness, it's real. I went through a system that was unjust, unfair, and it had nothing in place to resolve my issue. We would just basked around, tossed like salad, and there was no resolution. So I had to just go ahead and sign a paper saying I put him in there so I can relieve myself. And I had to fight to get my name off the registry. At the time, I was building my agency. And any of you have a city agency, if you're working with the city, you cannot have any charges against you. So I was in jeopardy of losing everything. And no one, even the judge that signed the papers to remove my adopted son, no one asked the question, how? Why? Let's maybe see what happened and get some services for this family. There was absolutely nothing in place. Absolutely nothing in place. And today, when I go to the courts and fight battles with these women, I had a woman recently. She she's a Black woman, and she was married to a white man, and he went down to the courts, and whatever he told them, every single thing was not true, and they took her children away. But we were able to get her children back. We were able to get her children back. So a part of what we do as a critical response team is getting there and getting these women help that they need. We respond. We take action. We go in because we understand that there's a critical issue and that domestic violence is real. And if we're going to make any change in these courts, and if we're going to change that justice, or it's just justice for all, if we're going to begin to change that, every single body in this room is going to have to take some accountability. Just take a deep dive. It won't hurt. It won't hurt for you to just say, wait a minute, let me investigate on myself. I don't have to look at what ACS is always saying, because that system needs a lot of help. I'm not going to blame anyone, because blame is not going to help. But what I'm going to say to you today is you have an opportunity right now in this room to use your power to make a difference in a Black and brown woman, because the marginalized and the disenfranchised of where Black women come from, the deserts that we come from, they are incapable of dealing with that. And the sad thing about it is that what I had to realize very quickly is that the court systems and the systems are machines. You cannot, and it is impossible to beat a machine because it doesn't have no post. What is this? It's a piece of wood. There's no post. There's nothing there. It's designed that way. It is designed that way. So what are we going to do to change that? That women coming in there that's broken down and beating and need help, what are we going to do to have some kind of compassion and take that machine away and get a heartbeat to these systems so we could begin to change them? So two things I want to leave you with. One is a mathematical miracle, why I'm here today. I'm here today because 15 years ago when I left New York City and I went up to a place, I didn't read too much. You know what I did? I watched Erica Kane get better. She got 5 men. She went and got therapy. Erica Kane was doing a thing. And I'm like sitting on the couch, Erica, do this. And I'm sitting there, my life just wibbling away. And I'm watching somebody else getting some therapy, smoking my cigarettes, drinking a Coca-Cola. But when I was shifted and moved by a power greater than myself. I went up north. I'm going to say this and I'm going to close with this one thing. And I was so battered and beaten and broken. I didn't know where I was. I left at the middle of the night because the person I was with, he was very dangerous. And if I didn't get out, he would have killed me because that's who he was. God bless him today. But when I got up to this shelter, all the way upstate, Lifetime music, movie, middle of the night, whisked out, the car come to get me. And I'm like, where am I going? But someone handed me this Bible, good old Bible. I didn't read it because, I just thought I was God. Isn't that strange? But I knew I had to do something different. So I get up to this place, I opened this Bible, I asked the council in the church, in the place, the shelter, can you show me where church is? Because I just want to go. And somebody told me to pray. So I'm gonna try this because nothing else seems to be working. So I get up to the place, they find me this big, beautiful church. And I get on the steps, and God is my witness as I stand here with you. I open up this book to protection. When I finish this, come up to me, I'll show you everything. I opened up the book, started praying for protection. And I said, God, if you want me here, and if I'm supposed to be here at the end of the road, my life is here, then I need you to show me a sign that I need to be here, because I was getting ready to go back to find him. Like Lisa's daughter, remember, she went back to talk to the abuser and she lost her life. But I didn't know no better. I wasn't educated. And I went and I got on the steps and I started praying. And as I lifted my head, there was a white man and two black vans, and there were some other white men and a dog. And I lifted my head, and God is my witness. I'm like, what are you doing here? It was the President of the United States, Bill Clinton. He lived somewhere there, and he was walking his dog at the church. And the dog came and jumped on me, and I was like, oh, wow, what is this? And I said, well, Mr. President, what can I do? Can I come talk to you? What is protocol? He said, come. I went to Bill Clinton, as God is my witness. I dropped my story like I was Run DMC, rapping down, baby. I said, let me tell you my life. He said, I know your life. I said, well, I used to have a little drink problem. I don't drink no more. He said, yeah, I know, my brother. Oop, I shouldn't have said that because that might go national. Who cares? Y'all can look it up. Anyway, Bill Clinton and I sat there and we talked, and I told him my whole life, and I told him what happened, how I got here, and I was scared. And I was like, I'm asking for protection because he's gonna come and find me and kill me. And he said, Secret Service and the President of the United States is here. And this whole town, before I got here, he started telling me stories about this place being swamped, and they got stuff over here and they got stuff there. I'm in the safest place ever. I said, what? No, I said, word, because that was the language back then. Now it's like, is that right? I got some education now, so I can change up the language, And Bill, President of the United States of America, told me, you're going to be all right. Come here, Stephanie. Let's walk. You're going to be all right. I said, well, Mr. President, I had the Bible. I'm telling him. He said, give me the Bible. He signed the Bible. God bless you, the date and time, and you're going to be all right. That was my mathematical miracle. That was something that my life, there was a calling on my life. There was something for me to do. If I prayed at the 11th hour and the President of the United States showed up in Secret Service, that was it. I was on my way. But let me close with this. Domestic violence is a pandemic. And we must address this as it is such unfortunate. Domestic violence is not going to be changed, or it won't get better until we all make a difference. We have to challenge ourselves to make a difference. Because of domestic violence, we see all the murders that are happening in our city, right? And these are all because of domestic violence. It is increasing, and there's nothing being done about it. So let me challenge you as I close out, because I heard that real nice Bill Clinton, right? Gave me a clap and all that. What are you going to do to make a difference? You, my sister, fabulous, with the nice suit on, the hair is fabulous. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do to use? Maybe you were privileged. Maybe you didn't have to come from poverty. Maybe you didn't go to bed hungry. Maybe you didn't go to bed because, didn't go to school because you didn't have no clothes or you didn't have no shoes. Maybe you had an opportunity to have choices or to have food at your table. So as you leave this conference today and you go out into the universe, I want you and I want you and I want every single last one of you to just raise your conscious level. Stay woke. Don't fall asleep because it's comfortable. I want you to just get a little bit uncomfortable, my sister with the red top over there. Just get a little uncomfortable because that's when shift hands. Just get a little uncomfortable. Just get a little deep, get off the surface. Stop being tossed around like we were tossed around all our lives. Get a little deep. Go in there because my experience as a Black woman, I'm pretty sure was not your experience or where you come from and what you had to experience. But I'm not the only one. There's thousands of women in the city that are experiencing horrendous bias and structural racism in these systems. And because we just don't want to get a little uncomfortable, we just go along with the policy and procedure. No, that's the way it is. So I challenge you, just get a little bit uncomfortable and make a difference because we have the power to make a difference. Thank you. That's our march. Please come out. I'll leave it up. So we are having a march. We are having a march to end domestic violence in Harlem. Commissioner Cecile Noel will be joining us. Chief Corey, Chief of Departments will be joining us. We would like you all, please take the information and please come and join us and get into the belly of the beast because that's where the change. We're going into Polar Grounds. Come up. Take a challenge. We'd like to see you. Thank you.